Good evening, everybody. My name is Ryu. If you saw my reaction video, you already know how I feel, and that I am batty for bats. But this is more analysis than that was, so I am proceeding with the assumption that all of y'all have already seen the episode, so I will be remiss to those whom have yet to do so. This is an episode which has received plenty of understandable, yet in my eyes at least, misplaced criticism. While I have not heard any reviewers whom did not enjoy the episode, they all seem to criticize that the episode developed not zilch, no nothing, not character, nor plot. This is something I partially disagree with. This episode actually does a few bits in the way of development. Also, for those of y'all who are of the opinion that perfect characters are boring, it also shows imperfection in Twilight, Applejack, Fluttershy, and Rainbow Dash, maybe even a little in Rarity. I'm actually surprised no one else has brought these up, well, except for Rainbow Dash, of course. Anyway, on to the analysis. But first, let's establish that no, I don't think the episode was flawless. Okay, now that that's out of the way, let's take it from the top. The setting is immediately established, giving direction and focus, so we immediately know the main focus will be apples. This, coupled with the simplistic title and mushy apple scene right off the bat, gives clear dictation of what the overarching story will be. This was a fantastic way to start out, because frankly, it prevented the episode from being a pile of insanity and reminiscence. I say reminiscence due to the sheer quantity of callbacks and references to well-known cliches as well as previous episodes, but I digress. Anywho, calling back to the flow of time, let's try this again. We begin with this shot of Applejack basking in her projected glory as we see through red delicious colored glasses how Applejack views apple bucking, followed by, as I have stated, the scene with the apple, which she perceived as beautiful, turning to mush as her world, literally and metaphorically, falls down and crumbles around her. If you think about it, this whole episode must have been really traumatizing for her. I mean, the rest of her family was in Appaloosa. Gosh darn it! Why was she left all alone? I mean, seriously, it's apple bucking day, and no pony was there to help her? Wait, apple bucking day? What happened to apple bucking season? We've already seen that she's a silly pony and can't buck all damn apples by herself, so what exactly were they thinking? The apples, I mean. Right, back on point. The setting is in place, so who, or what now, is our antagonist or issue? Fruit bats? No. Vampire fruit bats. The way this was presented was also ingenious, by largely holding Applejack as the narrator-esque role. The viewer, or rather I at least, could tell the fully evil persona of the vampire bats was being projected by her mind. For a bit of insight to those who may be lost, psychological projection was conceptualized by Sigmund Freud in the 1900s as a defense mechanism, so look it up. The aspects of projection include several different subtypes. However, we will be focusing on only two. The first is where a pony unconsciously rejects parts of themselves and believes those traits belong to others or objects. The second is a type in which some pony projects their insecurities to achieve a sense of correctness, and tend to use phrases like, "that's a fact," or "I'm right 'cause I am, dang it." Both of our main two for this episode fit the second category. Applejack projecting her fear because, as we know, she's very connected to her family and, as such, is unable to admit that the generations before her could be wrong. Fluttershy attempts to project her hope and usual animals are helpless and need us attitude onto her friends in order to avoid putting a stigma on any living being. The first only applies to AJ, projecting her own unrest and focus on the orchard above anything else onto the bats. We later see that she does actually say, you know what? Forget the orchard. We have to get Fluttershy back. And although this factor is not as important to the psychoanalysis of this, it still matters, as it brings something that has been tugging at the back of our minds into the outer glow of the limelight. That thing is a question. Does AJ have any hobbies outside of apple bucking and winning blue ribbons? And no, helping your friends and being a good pony does not count as a hobby. AJ is a character whose flaw is perfection. She is content, happy, even apple-sided for everyday work. That's good and all, but the issue arises when anything unordinary happens. She becomes uncomfortable and attempts to stay strong and refuses to be seen as weak, because she holds herself to a standard which, while achievable, prevents her from being able to admit she needs help, as we have previously seen. Now, while she retained her previous lessons fully and immediately asked her friends for help, she also forced them into her own plan and cut off any other options by, how shall I put this, nipping them in the bud? Wow, I've only scratched the tip of the iceberg here. Only a few minutes into the episode so far. I'm not even to the song yet. So much more to do. Just so much more to do.
Get on with it. Yes, get on with it.
Right then. So, moving on. Proving the two presented worlds both exist within the eye of the beholder is actually as simple as, well, take a look at the backgrounds presented. When we look through AJ's eyes, everything appears in dark reds and purples. Common colors in Tumblr Ask blogs, which have messed up themes, and for good reason. If you don't understand why that is, then feel free to Google color psychology. There is no reason to explain it here. While in contrast, while in Fluttervision, we get bright, vibrant colors. However, the one that interests me the most is actually Pinkie Pie. Within both views, she remains her usual bubbly self, surrounded by pink and an air lacking the negativity of AJ's view and the softness of Fluttershy's view. She remained untouchable by all bounds of logic and reason, even within the others' minds. This relates to a headcanon of mine based on the theory of how to become an alicorn, produced by Persian poetess, but that is for now. But that is for another time. There were so many callbacks and references in this episode, most of which have already been pointed out, like the bat signal. One that I have not heard yet is the Bad Seed reference. Okay, let's get to the part you have likely been waiting for. Flutterbat. This point of apicosity is likely, at least, alluding to Equestria Daily, as the existence of bat ponies is a prevalent factor there. Now, how can I say it's probably alluding to a brony website? Well, Equestria Girls was based on the humanoid art that the brony fandom created, so it is also likely that this was inspired by the brony fandom as well. Oh, and of course, knowing that a spell exists to turn ponies into bat ponies explains how Luna's chariot was pulled by 2 of them in Lunar Eclipse. I have to wonder though, how long does the transformation take? Seriously though, the episode began at sunrise. At the time the song began, it seems to still be morning. Not like super early, but it must have been about someplace between 8 and 9:30. However, judging by the shadows cast by every pony, the sun was directly overhead when they met. Wait, that means it took AJ nearly 6 hours to round up the ponies who were and are the elements of harmony? Such efficiency. Right, shadows always appear as directly below, making them a non-factor. So let's say it was 8 o'clock, AJ taking 2 hours to round up her friends. Still a long time, but when you think about it, she would have to find all of them, including Pinkie Pie, and convince them that it was important. Twilight's not the easiest to convince. Okay then, Twilight researching the spell, that is kinda up to luck, and how well she memorized each book. Really though, what would a spell like that even be categorized under? Mind-modifying magic from Mental Mares, Volume 3? And why in Celestia's name would Twilight own such a compilation? But assuming that, plus lunch, could take hours, and seeing as it would be illogical to walk back to the farm to hold the meeting to confirm Fluttershy will perform the stare, then go back to town for lunch, we can assume that they ate before the second meeting. It also gives credibility to the restored energy among the 6 that puts us now at 2 or 3 p.m., meaning it took 5 to 6 hours for Twilight to find and learn the spell. That's some fast learning. I must say it. Oh gosh, why? I really don't want to. Okay, I can do this. Darling, that biohazard suit is simply divine. There, I said it. Happy? Well, someone sure enjoys being bait. No Scooby snacks required. Rainbow NATO. Why wasn't Twilight already ready? And why does this stare work for Rainbow? Spike, I'm sorry, but you are useless right now. Why? I don't know. I don't like that Spike was put on screen right now. He could have just stayed at the library because he really isn't helpful right now. And it would have been better for his character if he had just not been put in. Okay. Face off. AJ says, now all we gotta do is sweep up these cores so I can start bucking fresh tomorrow morning. Okay, well, cool. She's gonna go buck the apples, right? But I have an issue with this. Really, AJ? Tomorrow morning? What kind of Minecraft Miracle Grow do you use? Apple bucking day, take 2. Okay, 1 day has passed, and the transformation has not begun yet. And yes, I am aware that the spell was used in the evening, according to what I have said. I just needed to establish when that was happening. So, late evening, Twilight uses the spell. Or not late evening, but about mid-evening, I'd say. Twilight uses the spell to change the bats, also changing Fluttershy. So then we have pretty much the rest of that evening, the night, and then we get into the next day. But, anyways, the transformation has not begun yet, but the apples had been sucked dry. This is the second morning here we're talking about. So, the apples were sucked dry before Fluttershy got fangs, meaning either she transformed in the night and reverted back to pure pony, or the one that fell had, I don't know, been devoured the day before? For the first to be possible, Fluttershy would have to have somnambulism, or as it is more commonly known, sleepwalking disorder. Sleepwalking episodes can usually only last up to an hour. And given that her cottage is at the edge of the forest, and the apple farm is at the very least half a mile from the main section of Ponyville, she would have to transform, leave her house, wait, yeah, not with all those animals you don't, well, not in a timely manner, anyway. Although, it does mean that Angel has seen her transform, as he would watch her if she does sleepwalk. He would be aware of it. Is that why all the animals were gone in the end? They were afraid of Flutterbat? In this theory, according to the official map of Equestria, she would have to, after getting past Angel and others, fly over Ponyville to get to the apple farm, select the apples, and get back home in under an hour, which frankly is impossible unless she were to only get the trees closest to Ponyville and began transforming back, and then complete the reverting process, wake up in Ponyville, and walk home. Of course, as a regular sleepwalker, she wouldn't find it odd, and therefore not worth mentioning. For the second way, also, I do realize that she could have simply woken up in the night and transformed, and that would give her much more than an hour, and she would not remember it because, and we know that because she did not remember the second transformation. However, why would she transform back unless it was a sleepwalking episode? There's my question. Okay. Now, for the second way, the only requirement is AJ to be paranoid, which we already know to be true. I, however, choose the first, as it is suggested that is what occurred, and is more than 20% cooler than the alternative. Speaking of, Rainbow Dash is an addict. I've already said it, I know. Okay, I am not going to question the mini magazine or reading that. A stakeout? Well, okay then. We got vampires, stakes, a full moon transformation, the mention of sin, wild accusations, multiple psychological disorders, addiction, and the list goes on. Yeah, so this is no longer a show for little girls. So, can we have Derpy back now? So back on track. How did I'm really hungry while looking at an apple and drooling not tip them off to what was going on? Did no pony hear her? But wait, Rarity responded, so clearly they did. Oh, and of course, Rarity's response had to be, we're all in this together. Friggin' got High School Musical in my head now. Pinky holds stuff with her hair? Well, okay. Wait, she can move it accurately? What is this gypsy magic? Pinky was the first not to trust the yellow one. Why is she always so much more in tune with everything than every pony else? Seriously, I think she might know what's going on better than Celestia herself. But then she follows AJ instead of Fluttershy. Because? Oh, but she is later seen constantly on her tail. So maybe she suspected her from the start? It's this owl again. So, how can they hold on like that? Oh, someone alert the Enterprise. The princess has stolen the holodeck. Okay, so during this scene, Twilight says, and transferred that desire into Fluttershy. Wait, what? So what you're telling me is that in Equestria, some pony can change their form by desiring to hold another? Okay, if this were an anime and like a fan sub, I would just write this off as a mistranslation. But it's not. It's originally in English. So clearly they meant the desire was simply transferred into Fluttershy, and she transformed from that desire. Meaning, in Equestria, it is possible to just desire to hold another form and do so. That's it. Vampires have been redefined and can now see their own reflection. How did she unconsciously use the stare? Was it simply because they wished it to be so? Is Discord nothing more than some pony who figured out that within Equestria, if it is wished, so it will be? What is with the fang at the end? I really, really hope this means something later. If she just transforms back partially into Bat Pony, or entirely, that would be amazing if this was a recurring thing. I don't think that any more were planned for season 4 that had anything to do with bats in the title. I've looked at some predicted title things, not really looking for them, but just by accident, you know. And Magic Tortilla. And with those brain-numbing questions, I'm out.